This episode is brought to you by the outstanding team at Compass Strategic Advisors, your trusted partner in driving strategic growth. Whether it's expanding into new territories, launching products, rebranding, or hiring key staff and board members, they offer expert guidance every step of the way. With a versatile approach and a proven track record, Compass is the go-to resource for both startups and established companies looking to scale with confidence. Show some support for this podcast by sharing this appreciation and checking out their website at www.compass-strategic-advisors.com. Ken Miller, welcome to the Liftoff with yours truly.
Well, thank you, Keith. It's just a pleasure and an honor to be on your show.
Well, I tell you, the second I caught wind of this opportunity, I wanted to grab it. You have had an inspirational journey, and while this program is called Liftoff, this episode might be called Check Yourself Before You Wreck Yourself.
I like that. Let's work with that one. I like that one.
It's really been an incredible journey for you, and it's captured in your new book, Becoming Ken, which I love the photo right there, as well as the QR code, and a great read. And it goes well beyond the typical topics of this podcast about where we talk about founder-led growth and tech led growth and development. And we touch a little bit on those topics here, of course, but I thought it's such a pleasure to have somebody with a different perspective. I wanted to weigh into that. You had a fantastic story, and I'll let you just give us a little bit of backstory if you don't mind.
Sure. Born in 1962, makes me 62 years old today. Not today, but this year.
Oh, good.
My mother was a teenage runaway white prostitute, and my father was the pimp and drug dealer in New York, or one of the. And I was put up for adoption at birth. I did 6 years in foster homes. I was adopted by Irene and Sam Miller. And then I went from New York to Anchorage, Alaska. So I grew up in Alaska. A lot of people know me as Ken from Alaska.
Wow.
And I was precocious as a child. I was a National Merit Scholar. I graduated high school 17, accepted to Harvard, went to Dartmouth College, got an Ivy League degree. But I always tell people I majored in fraternity and I minored in drinking. And so when I got out, my first gift as a new college graduate was my first treatment center. And I stayed sober for a few years, went into the corporate world. So I've always had a corporate background since 1984. And within 3 years, I had relapsed and was to spend the next 20 years pretty much homeless on the streets of Seattle, Reno, Sacramento, and Jackson, Mississippi. I'm also a 3-time convicted felon. I've spent many years behind bars for my crimes. And in 2007, I was released from the penitentiary for what I believe the last time. I had no marketable skills, and I became what we call a development director in the fundraising world. And then in 2014, I put out my own shingle as a coach, consultant, and individual that helped organizations, nonprofits in the area of fundraising. Since then, I've founded 4 more companies. So I have 5 companies that I own. I've been quite successful. And so I wrote the book, was published on May 19th, 2025, to share a little of that journey, a little of that story. But it really resonates with business owners. There's aspects of the book that I talk about at each chapter of lessons learned, because you still learn lessons on the streets, in the penitentiary, and of course in the corporate world. And I've learned lessons that I do share.
I feel like I really undersold by saying it was an inspirational story, a unique backstory. And I was like almost underselling the drama that you've seen in your young life. I mean, that's a lot there, Ken. So what happened? I mean, we don't have to relive because we only have so much time, but what was that pivot point?
The pivot point was September 22nd, 2004, when I woke up in a closet and my sole possessions I owned were a pair of shorts, no underwear, pair of shoes, no socks, a t-shirt, and that was it. That was my sole possessions I owned in the world. And I was arrested for selling a $10 rock of crack cocaine, and I was sentenced to 6 years in the penitentiary for that. And I was guaranteed my next felony, I would get 25 to life. And about a month into my jail sentence, as I'm getting ready to be sent to the penitentiary, I had a conversation with God and I listened and I pretty much followed his heed ever since. That was my pivot moment, was actually lying on that bunk and having a conversation with God. But the physical pivot moment was the day I was arrested. The day I was arrested, I just want to tell this real quick one. I'm waiting for literally what we call the paddy wagon. I'm waiting with other individuals that had been swept up off the streets, and I had tears running down my eyes. Tears. And the cop was worried, like, why are you crying? Why are you crying? And I told him I'm crying because I'm going to live. I can do prison. I've done it twice before, but I can't do the streets. I can't do me on being free out on the streets. I will die. And so it was
Wow.
tears of joy because I was arrested and I knew I was looking at years in the penitentiary.
That is heartbreaking. My goodness. I could joke and like, okay, so Dartmouth was not the best choice for you, but no, seriously,
Was
Ivy League education, did that set you down the wrong path? Like
no,
with
no,
expectations or pressure or any of that stuff, or
no,
was it something other that
no,
another switch that kind of went off?
no, none of those. I'm a big believer in that it is not about antecedents, that I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. I'm a big believer. Yeah, I got beat when I was a kid. Yeah, I had trauma from my childhood. Yes, I was
Okay.
a foster child for 6 years, but that's not why I became an alcoholic. I became an alcoholic because physiologically, I have a reaction to alcohol. I had my first drink of October of 1980. I was a full-blown alcoholic by December of 1980, within 2 months of my first drink.
I got you.
Okay, so it wasn't the antecedents
Yeah.
that did that. It wasn't Dartmouth any way, shape, or form. Now it made it a lot easier that I can imbibe quite a bit of alcohol at that time because of the fraternity scene. But we all went to the fraternities. That's our social
You
outlet.
accomplished so much at a young age, and you were on such a different trajectory, and then to see that trajectory completely disentangle and
Mhm.
follow that new one. And then the amazing part is that you're able to recover from that low and come back around. That's the hardest thing. That's so much more impressive to me than the success you had, getting into Harvard and getting those grades and accomplishing that task. Amazed. Nobody makes that recovery like that. Not nobody, but
Rare,
way too often.
rare. It is
It is
very rare.
very rare.
To the level that I was, very rare.
Addiction and
It-
homelessness,
yeah,
which
I mean,
which
I
goes
was the
together
gentleman. I
which goes
panhandled.
together far too often.
Yeah,
You rarely hear about people leaving that scenario and becoming business owners and business
sure.
leaders.
Yeah, millionaires, all that. Yeah, that's me. But the way I got there, again, it is rare. Rarely have we seen a person fail, who's thoroughly followed a path. I'm in the anonymous programs, and I understand that. But there are different levels of addiction and or alcoholism. Let's just call it addiction. And individuals that reach a certain level, they're only this far away from being a responsible member of society. When I got out of the penitentiary, I had 20 years behind me of this life. And so I didn't have skill sets that that were going to be good in the corporate world or in the business world. And I also had what I call self-talk. I had dialogues internal that I dealt with the world to protect me. And I had to deal with those. There was a lot. There was still a journey from the day I stopped using. So I'm getting ready to celebrate 21 years on September 23rd. But from the day that just took out the alcohol and the drug. But how do I become emotionally mature? How do I become intellectually mature? How do I become spiritually mature? Those are all items I had to work on. I started working on them in the penitentiary, and then I continue to work on them. But I'm in a position now. I'm really, really cool where I am. I'm
Mhm.
not working on Ken today. I'll be honest with you, I'm not. What
Well,
I'm doing is more giving it to others. That's what I'm
let-
doing.
let's talk about that, Ken.
Okay, sure.
You're so modest.
Mhm.
Um, here's the thing. You're a mentor and
Mhm.
you bring with you such a powerful toolkit of a combination of experience and knowledge. Um, what's your process in terms of your mentorship
Oh,
with young leaders?
okay. So I have a very explicit
Yeah,
process. I've been doing it for 15 years. I've worked with probably 50. First of all, mentoring is free. Just want to make sure people understand the difference between mentoring and
good
coaching.
share. Good share.
Coaching is an engagement, usually a fee-based engagement. I coach also in fundraising and other things. But so I mentor. I predominantly mentor, well, first of all, I only mentor men, and I predominantly mentor young Black men, okay, because I know that need in that community. But I have a very, very specific way I go about it. So the way I go about it very simply is in the first meeting, I sit down with the individual because individuals come to me from different avenues. People recommend, them to me, family members, hey, would you speak to my nephew, my son, da 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 da. But first thing I say is, I introduce myself and I say, my one purpose in mentoring you is to engender dreams. What is your dream? And then I shut up. And and then also I usually, depending if they take a little time to answer that question, I'd say this: I give you permission to dream because many people have taken away permission to dream. Family members,
Mm.
parents,
So
teachers.
true.
And so anyway, I do that. And then once that happens, we go through the process. And that's I'm going to give you information. I'm going to introduce you to people and I'm going to support you emotionally. That's what I do. And it's open-ended. I've been mentoring the same gentlemen for 14, 15 years. We meet quarterly for 1 hour. My time is valuable. If I was to put a dollar amount, you would understand, but it's valuable. But
Yeah.
I give of the 10 gentlemen that I mentor today. At one point, I was doing 28 men, but I had to pare it down to 10 because I had a new company I was starting.
And that's wild. So now as you reach into their souls and open
Mhm,
their minds, what's
mhm.
next? It's open. You've unlocked them. Now what else do you help foster?
So there's a couple components of that. So one of the things that I tell them, I'm going to engender dreams. I'm going to do my best to help your dreams come true. So let's talk about the dream, the aspiration, the goal. We do that. Then I tell them, right, I'm very, very transparent because I tell them this, I don't want anything from you.
Yeah.
There's no monetary. All I want is for your success. Then the other thing that I say is in time, I will build trust with you because I have experience in doing this. I will build trust. And whatever you're comfortable sharing now, we'll share. And then in time, it'll grow. Then my thing is we do, so when I meet with them, this is so funny. I meet with them, we first start the meeting off every single time I meet with my mentors. And they'll start talking. I say, you know how we start? And they're like, oh yeah, tell me about a win. That's what they'll say a lot. And that's what I do. We start with a win.
Nice.
Because many times they're coming to me with a concern or a challenge.
Problem. Yeah.
A problem. All right. And then we talk about that. And I'm a big one on definitions, whether
Yeah.
I'm coaching or mentoring.
What do you need?
Let's talk about let's define that word. What is pain? What is courage? What is integrity? And we talk about that because we need to get that fundamental. What is a problem? That's one of the key ones. Every man I've ever worked with, we talk about what is a problem. And I'm always challenging them. I'm Socratic. I'm always challenging them. Sentence completion, Socratic, antithesis. I'm always trying to get them to think because I think it's one of the greatest gifts we have is our ability to think. And
Mhm.
what I say to them, a problem very simply is a set of circumstances that seeks a solution. That's all a problem is. So let's talk about this set of circumstances and what solution are we seeking? Because I tell them 2 plus 2 is not a problem. That is a statement. 2 plus 2 equals is a problem because it's seeking the solution equals solution. And we go through that, talk about fear, and I spent a lot of time talking about pain. That's probably spend more time talking about pain, discomfort, setbacks than anything else. Because, in my estimation, that is what is going to make or break you, other than your spiritual as a person, is how do you deal with discomfort and pain and fear? Because they're all connected.
Is the idea toward helping them find a career path or just becoming, better souls?
Oh, 100% better people.
Yeah,
100%. But in the beginning, many of them come to me about doing better in fundraising, being better. But
fantastic.
when the trust is built, we're now talking about marriage. We're now talking about relationships with family. We are now talking about, most importantly, relationships with self.
Hmm.
Okay. What's your self talk? I do a lot of that. What are you saying to yourself right now? Because you had this situation. What did you say to yourself? Did you talk to yourself?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm not
absolutely.
worthy.
I'm saying I got to do more mentoring, Ken. I
I'm.
worked at I worked at a couple places where I signed up as a mentor and continue to, but I have nowhere near the bandwidth that you do. That's very impressive, and I compliment you and thank you for all that great work.
Thank
Um,
you.
how are you adjusting in society from the standpoint of all the technology that's going around with what is probably improperly called soft skills, but now we're talking about AI and oh man, all the things going on with software and the tools that are available today, both for the sort of tools like I use Headspace as an example, right? Calm as an example. Those are
Mhm.
tools that help us adjust. I don't know if that fits itself into your practice or there's some other things that work within, the process that you go through. Are there workflows, workbooks that you use and follow?
Okay. Uh,
That was a rambling
so I
question.
love, first of all, if you talked to me a year ago, I would tell you I have no time or inclination to look at AI, period. I now own a company that does AI.
Yeah.
Okay. I own the company.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. I know AI very well. And I so believe in it and love it. And let me tell you why. AI did not care that I'm a three-time ex-felon. AI does not care that I'm 62. AI does not care that I'm African American. Doesn't care.
Love it.
It still gives me the same answers. And it can, if you so choose, can even the field. AI doesn't care I went to Dartmouth. Doesn't care I was a National Merit Scholar.
That's
You can
great.
still get
I
the
love that.
same if you know how to query and prompt from an LLM, a large language model. You can still get the query.
Yep.
So anyway, I understand it. I love it.
Yep.
I teach it. I work with it. I have people on staff that do automations. I have a whole company that works in AI, and it it is awesome. I could talk about this. I do. I speak from the stage about AI. So I'm a big believer in that. There are other, tools. I'm always looking at different tools. But one of the key components, and this is to the business owners, is that there's so much out there that you have to be judicious and have to have discernment as to which tools to use.
Yeah.
I'd rather you be good with 80%, 90% knowledge of Chat GPT than to have 20% of Grok, Claude, Gemini, and Chat GPT. You need to learn how to use one of them well. I don't care if you use Gemini, I don't care if you use Grok, I don't care if you use Claude. I'm just talking about the LLMs, let
Yeah.
alone AI image. You can use Pika, you can use Midjourney, let alone you can use make.com, N8N if you're doing automations. I could talk about this for a while, but the key
Yeah.
thing is get good or hire someone, that's good in depth within the AI ecosystem.
Yeah. I may need your help there too. So,
Sure.
Ken, when you deal with some of these young men
Mhm.
and they're facing challenges,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
they're going through it, they're in the middle of it, maybe, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it's hard to find a win. It's hard to find, something to hold on to. How do you start that conversation?
The first thing is let's define the problem. Okay.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things I want to do. Number two, if I'm in time, I teach gap control. I teach this. What is gap control? Gap control is the input through our senses and the space before we either react or act. And what we're trying to get away from is the react. Okay. So
Hmm.
on the streets or in the penitentiary, I had very little gap control. I'd have input. You'd say something or look at me in a certain way or step on my shoes, and I reacted in a way that was inimical to my well-being, let alone the other individual that
Yeah.
it was affecting. We can do the same thing in the corporate world. Believe me, all the lessons I've learned on the streets, I've taken into the corporate world. So
Oh,
one of the first things is I want to identify. The other thing is I want to do is empathize. And what I mean by empathize, I'm not saying I agree with what you did because you did react. What I'm doing is I see you and I acknowledge you and I acknowledge your humanness and we speak to that. A lot of times, if it's a big concern, I just sit back and listen.
yeah.
There's sometimes I don't have an answer, but
Yeah.
at least you know that one
Yeah.
Black man is listening to you and is concerned about you and is willing to take his time, his capacity to hear. Then, almost always, though, 99% of the time, let's say 95% of, I'll have a solution. I'll have a solution. And many times, all we're looking for is confirmation bias. We're looking for confirmation
Right.
because you have five different avenues you can go down,
Right.
and you don't know which one.
Yeah.
But because I have your best interest at heart, your best interest. Really, your best interests are God's best interest. So I'm always thinking about the surrounding community, your family, your wife, whatever, when you're making this decision. Anyway, I could go on again more, but that's what I do. And then I always use the thing. This is my suggestion.
I'll
This,
tell you what, if people aren't signed up for this book right now, I'm shocked. You got great stories. What has you excited, looking out in the next 12 months, besides a great birthday, a great celebration of some goals that you've achieved, which I compliment you on again. What has you excited about your several businesses on the fundraising side, the nonprofit side, the AI world?
what has me excited is I have some upcoming speaking engagements. That's one of the reasons why I wrote the book was to speak more.
Yeah,
And they're just like my calling card. That's number
yeah.
one. Number two, I have growing my AI company. It's called Evolution. And what I do have is offshore virtual assistants that are literally trained in AI and how to use AI platforms. So I'm growing that and it is growing. The other one, I have a new book coming out with Dr. Will Moreland that is going to be on respect, literally the word respect.
Nice.
And that one's coming out. Then I have another book on fundraising that's coming out
Yep.
this year. So I'm
Wow.
really looking forward to that. So I have two
You're
books.
catching up on some lost time, man. That is some prolific effort.
But that's just part
One
of it.
book.
That's
I'm
part
still
of it.
working on my first book.
Yeah, that's this part. And again, I have a lot of travel coming up.
Yeah.
I have property in Ecuador, so I'm looking forward to going down
Oh, yeah.
to the to the ocean and spending some time with my lovely wife and going down there and we'll do that. And anyway, I have a lot. I keep busy. And then the other one is just growing, is watching my mentors grow. So one of the new things that I'm doing, just tells a little bit about me, is almost all the time I speak on fundraising, I'm grabbing one of my mentees to speak with me
I love that.
and so I can showcase them.
Yeah.
I can put them because they probably couldn't get on the stage by themselves, but
Yeah.
they can
Ken,
come up with me.
I'm gonna make sure I share this with a few special people that I know in the community that
Appreciate it.
yeah, no, my pleasure. This is great. I got to wrap this up, but
Okay.
any other messages that you want to share? I know we covered a lot wide, but we didn't get into much depth, but that's what the book is for. That's what deeper conversations are all about.
Mhm.
You don't have time, but any other last thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, but the last thoughts I'd like to share, and that's a great question. I just want people to believe in themselves. Just if you can come away with anything, you've seen where I've been, where I am today. And I like me. I love me. I'm good people. I know that. I'm a kind and gentle man. I know that. I've proven that over the last 20 years. And the other thing is, if for any reason you want to reach out to me, Ken Miller 84 is my LinkedIn. The website's right up there, kenmillerspeaks.com. You can leave a message and I get back. I only have one phone number. I've had it for 20 years. I get back to people. I'm not afraid of any human being. And that's a beautiful place to be. I have no fear. I have no resentment toward any living or dead human being. And my blessings are so manifold that I just want to give it back. So if something that's interests you in this conversation, and again, Keith, thank you for
Can we
allowing me to be on your
we
platform.
we
You have
go
a great one.
we go through life in such a fast-paced, rush, that it's great to have these conversations. They help ground us and maybe recenter, maybe refocus. Who knows? Again, it's moving fast, spinning on its axis as it does. But I know for one thing, I sure appreciate the time. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.
And best of luck.